The Churchill Crocodile was a British flame-throwing tank of late Second World War. It was a variant of the tank, Infantry, Mk4, A22, Churchill Mark VII, although the Churchill Mark IV was initially chosen to be the base vehicle. The Crocodile was introduced as one of the specialized armored vehicles developed under Major-General Percy Hobart, informally known as Hobart's Funnies. It was produced from October 1943, in time for the Normandy invasion. Design and development. From early in the war, there had been experiments with mounting flamethrowers on British vehicles, leading to vehicles such as the Cockatrice, Basilisk, and the Wasp, the latter being a flamethrower on a universal carrier. The Churchill Oak, a flamethrower carrying Churchill Mark II developed by a Royal Tank Regiment officer, was tested operationally on the Dieppe raid. Parallel development work was carried out by the Petroleum Warfare Department, AEC, and the Ministry of Supply, MOS, on Valentine tanks. The Department of Tank Design preferred the Churchill, which was the infantry tank successor to the Valentine, as a basis for further work. The General Staff decided a flamethrower based on the Churchill using the Petroleum Warfare Department's design was required. The main armament of the tank was to be retained. The specification was for a minimum of a minute of flame with an effective range of 80 yards and the fuel to be in a jettisonable trailer. 12 pilot models were ordered in July 1942. War Office policy reversed this decision in August 1942. Tanks were thought to be too vulnerable at close range, and the flamethrowers should be man-pack or carrier types. The PWD continued with development work of a trailer and equipment, including improvements in the fuel. The thickened fuel gave better performance in terms of range and effect on the target. After Major General Percy Hobart saw the Crocodile demonstrated in 1943, he put pressure on the MOS to produce a development plan. The Chief of the General Staff added the flamethrowers to the 79th Division Plan. A Royal Armoured Corps advisor to the General Staff, Major General Alec Richardson, was shown the prototype in January 1943, and it was also demonstrated for the War Office in March. The project was given permission for 250 units in August 1943. The ordering before troop trials with prototypes was necessary to get the units built in time for the planned invasion of France in 1944. The prototypes were under construction by October. At around that time, it was decided to modify the design of the equipment so it could be used on the new Mark VII Churchill as well as the Mark IV that it had been originally designed for. The requirement for it to fit the Mark IV was subsequently dropped. The first prototypes Mark VII were delivered to troops in January 1944 and production vehicles in April. The order had been increased to 750, then extended by a further 200 for use in the India and Southeast Asia. Final design. The flamethrower equipment was produced as a kit that Rheem workshops could fit in the field, converting any available Churchill Mk7, although in practice field conversion was rarely done, if it was ever done at all, as it made more sense for the flame tanks to be allocated to designated units that had been specially trained to operate them. The conversion kit consisted of the trailer, an armored pipe fitted along the underside of the tank, and the projector, which replaced the hull-mounted base machine gun. The Crocodile retained its turret-mounted Ordnance QF 75mm gun, so could still operate as a tank. The kit could also fit the Churchill Mk8, which was identical to the Mk7 except that it was fitted with a 95mm howitzer instead of a 75mm gun. A very small number were converted to Crocodiles. Of the 800 kits produced, 250 were held in reserve for possible operations against the Japanese. The remainder were enough to arm 3 regiments of tanks, and for training and as replacements for battlefield casualties. The Crocodile's 6.5-ton armored trailer carried 400 imperial gallons, 1,800 L, of fuel and 5 cylinders containing compressed gas propellant. This was enough for 81-second bursts. Filling the trailer was laborious work and was usually done from standard 45-gallon drums. To make the task easier, it was common to construct an elevated structure of scaffolding poles that allowed the drums to be rolled out of the truck that delivered them to a position over the trailer, so the fuel could be poured straight in. The fuel was an incendiary mixture called Fuel K, redesignated in the year 1944 to FTF, Heavy Number 1, FRS, in its version for mechanized flamethrowers. The trailer was filled with 8 drums of 45 gallons each or 50 drums of 8 gallons capacity, designated for M1A1 flamethrowers. To achieve the greatest operating distance, the fuel used should be that stored in 45-gallon drums. The trailer connected to the tank by a three-way armored coupling and could be jettisoned from within the tank if necessary. The trailer's armor could resist small arms fire, but would be penetrated by heavier weapons. Therefore, in action, Crocodile crews used their tank to shield the trailer from enemy fire as best they could. For transport over long distances, Crocodile units were issued with AEC Matador lorries to tow the trailers. The tanks themselves were moved on tank transporters. For transport over long distances, Crocodile units were issued with AEC Matador lorries to tow the trailers. The tanks themselves were moved on tank transporters. Flame projector. The thrower had a range of up to 120 yards, 110 meters. Some sources quote 150 yards, 140 meters. But generally the range was around 80 yards, 73 meters. To ignite the flame, the projector used a fine spray of petrol from the Crocodile's main fuel tank. This was ignited by a spark plug, and in turn ignited the main fuel jet. The operator could spray long or short bursts of flaming fuel onto the target. The operator could also spray the target with fuel, then ignite it with a short, lit burst. There was sufficient fuel for 80 single-second bursts or equivalent continuous fire. The trailer could be jettisoned if it was hit, or once empty to give the tank greater freedom of movement. The trailers were fitted with tow bars, so they could be collected after the action by unit transport. Refueling took at least 90 minutes and pressurization around 15 minutes. The pressure required had to be primed on the trailer by the crew as close to use as feasible, because pressure could not be maintained for very long. The fuel was projected at a rate of 4 imperial gallons, 18 L per second. The fuel burned on water and could be used to set fire to woods and houses. And thanks for watching and subscribe.